I'm curious, this issue of qualified immunity, Washington comes up with these buzzwords that it likes to talk about, but it doesn't necessarily address the problem. Will this address the problem if we do away with, or if we don't do away with qualified immunity? Will it make a difference in your opinion?
Well, Dal, you're talking to a former prosecutor turned civil plaintiff's attorney. So qualified immunity is very important. It allows folks like us who are representing victims of civil rights violations to hold individual police officers accountable. So qualified immunity, it really says that unless you can show that the officer violated a clearly established constitutional right, there's no legal liability for the individual officer. So it's an important issue, but I understand why Congressmember Clyburn wants to move past it. It seems like it's dead in the water in the Senate, even though the House has already passed the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act.
You know, we saw all of those protesters take to the streets after the death of George Floyd at the Black Lives Matter protest. Is this an instance where we have a system that does not represent us? I mean, if you look at the raw numbers, it could be in North Carolina, it can be in Minnesota, it can be in Paris, France. There are thousands of people who want change, and yet the people that are standing in the way of the change are people that wear blue uniforms or black robes.
Unfortunately, it's the nature of our Senate. You know, you have a Senate that doesn't represent folks according to population, right, according to state, and really the Democrats just don't have the votes. I mean, they have the 50, but part of it's just the representation of the Senate, but also the issue of the filibuster in the Senate. The filibuster is a hurdle. The Democrats just don't have the 60 votes. So unless they intend to get rid of the filibuster, they don't have what they need to reach that super majority, that magic number of 60 votes in the Senate. So this is a political issue, and it's something that needs to be addressed because these reforms are absolutely crucial for both law enforcement and for restoring the public's faith in law enforcement, especially people of color in this country.
So let me ask you this from the standpoint of that old prosecutor that you were. When you're dealing with cops, as you did on a daily basis, how difficult is it to say to Joe Smith that's representing that case in file 43 that you are now going to go after him in that case in file 34? Is the bond between the lawyer and the prosecutor, or rather the prosecutor and the cop, too close?
Yeah, I think part of the issue is most prosecutors are elected officials, and jurors love law enforcement. And prosecutors are used to taking easy cases and winning. These are challenging cases. That's why I commend Attorney General Keith Ellison for taking the hard case and really prosecuting Derek Chauvin for that second-degree murder. A lot of other law enforcement, a lot of other prosecutors wouldn't have prosecuted law enforcement the way he did. I think that's the challenge. Prosecutors need to take the righteous cases, make the difficult charging decisions, even though we know that in this country it's very difficult to convict police officers of murder. So that's the primary issue, and that's why I commend Keith Ellison, who happens to be a former member of Congress himself, actually the first Muslim American in Congress. So he's been breaking through barriers his entire life.
Yeah, and I'm glad you pointed that out because, yes, the system does have to change, and prosecutors, the easy cases, unfortunately, always involve too many people of color. Neama Rahmani for us on the West Coast. Neama, thank you very much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
When we come back.